For more than a century, Charleston has been haunted by questions nobody can fully answer. What caused one of America's most powerful earthquakes? Why is the city slowly sinking? And what secrets lie beneath its streets, rivers, and harbour? Because beneath Charleston's beauty lies a hidden world of buried rivers, invisible faults, moving islands, drowned forests, ancient oceans, and forces still shaping the coast today. Here are 33 reasons Charleston is far stranger than most people realise. The city built on a giant sponge. Most visitors imagine Charleston resting securely on solid ground. It doesn't. Much of the city sits atop layers of mud, sand, clay, marsh deposits, and ancient coastal sediments. Imagine constructing a historic city not on rock, but on a giant sponge. That sponge compresses, it shifts, it settles. And over centuries, entire neighborhoods have slowly adjusted to the unstable foundation beneath them. Some buildings have survived hurricanes, wars, and centuries of weather. Yet their greatest enemy may have always been the ground itself. And that's only the beginning. The earthquake nobody expected. When people think of major American earthquakes, they picture California. They picture the San Andreas Fault. They do not picture Charleston. That mistake nearly cost an entire city. On the night of August 31st, 1886, Charleston experienced one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded east of the Mississippi. Modern estimates place the quake between magnitude 6.9 and 7.3, making it one of the strongest earthquakes in US history outside the western states. The destruction was staggering. More than 2,000 buildings were damaged. At least 60 people lost their lives. Damage estimates reached roughly $5 to $6 million at the time, equivalent to well over $150 million today. Walls collapsed, churches cracked, railroad tracks twisted. People fled into the streets, screaming. Some thought Judgment Day had arrived. Others believed Charleston had been cursed. The shaking was so powerful that it was reportedly felt across an area of nearly 2.5 million square miles, from Cuba to New York, and as far west as the Mississippi River. For comparison, very few earthquakes in North American history have been felt across such a vast region. But here's the truly terrifying part. Scientists still debate exactly why it happened. More than 140 years later, researchers continue studying hidden faults and deep geological structures beneath Charleston, searching for answers. And that mystery remains buried beneath the city today. The fault nobody can fully see. Normally, geologists can point to a fault and say, there's the source. Charleston isn't so simple. The fault system responsible for the 1886 earthquake remains partially hidden beneath thick layers of sediment. Some researchers believe multiple ancient faults may be involved. Others argue a deeper structure is responsible. The evidence is incomplete. The underground picture remains blurry, which means nobody knows with complete certainty where the next major earthquake could begin. And that uncertainty keeps many geologists awake at night. The harbour that wasn't supposed to exist. Long before Charleston Harbour existed, this landscape looked nothing like it does today. During the last ice age, sea levels were more than 300 feet lower than they are now. The modern coastline lay dozens of miles farther east, and rivers flowed across land that is now submerged beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Then the ice sheets began to melt. Sea levels rose, coastlines shifted, ancient valleys drowned, and the ocean slowly invaded the landscape. Over the past 20,000 years, the sea has risen by more than 400 feet globally, transforming river valleys into estuaries and helping create the harbour we know today. The harbour itself is proof that Charleston's coastline has never been permanent. And it is still changing today, and nature is not finished editing. The buried rivers beneath the city. Under Charleston lie ancient river channels hidden beneath layers of younger sediment. Some were carved when the ocean stood far lower than today. Others may date back hundreds of thousands of years. Geologists continue mapping these underground features, yet new discoveries keep appearing. It's as if an older landscape still survives beneath the modern one. The day the ground turned liquid. During the 1886 earthquake, something horrifying happened. The soil itself failed. Water-saturated sands suddenly behaved like liquid. Buildings tilted. Foundations sank. The earth seemed to melt beneath people's feet. This process is called liquefaction, and many of the conditions that caused it still exist today, waiting. The sinking city. Here's something many residents don't realize. Charleston isn't only dealing with rising seas. Parts of the city are sinking too. It's a double attack. The ocean rises, the land lowers. Together, they amplify flooding risk. Scientists have measured land subsidence across portions of the South Carolina coast, with some areas sinking by several millimeters per year. That may sound insignificant, but over decades, those small changes add up. At the same time, sea levels along the Charleston coastline have risen by more than a foot since the early 1900s, and the rate has accelerated in recent decades. That combination helps explain why Charleston experiences far more tidal flooding today than it did just a few generations ago. The troubling reality is that neither process appears to be stopping, and every year the numbers become harder to ignore. Enjoying this countdown? If you're fascinated by the hidden geological dangers lurking beneath some of America's most famous places, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because some of the strangest mysteries are still ahead, and the next one might be the most unsettling yet. The marsh that refuses to die. Developers filled countless acres of marshland to expand Charleston. Roads were built, homes were constructed, entire neighborhoods appeared. But geology has a long memory. Even after being buried, old marsh sediments continue behaving differently from surrounding ground. Floodwaters often reveal where those ancient wetlands once existed, almost as if the landscape remembers what it used to be, and sometimes tries to become that again. The islands that are literally moving. Most people think islands are permanent. A piece of land appears on a map, and that's where it stays. Not here. The barrier islands protecting Charleston are among the most restless landscapes in North America. Every wave steals grains of sand. Every storm rearranges the shoreline. Every hurricane redraws the map. Entire sections of beach that existed a generation ago have vanished. New sections appear elsewhere. The islands are constantly migrating, inch by inch, year after year. And the unsettling reality is that these islands are Charleston's first line of defense against the Atlantic Ocean. What happens if that defense continues to weaken? We'll come back to that. The Carolina Bays. Now we enter one of the strangest mysteries in the entire southeastern United States. Scattered across the landscape are thousands of oval-shaped depressions known as Carolina Bays, and nobody can fully explain how they formed. For decades, theories have ranged from meteor impact to wind-driven lakes to ancient climate events. The strange thing is that they all share remarkably similar shapes and orientations. It's almost as if some gigantic force swept across the region and left fingerprints on the landscape. Scientists continue to debate their origin, and despite decades of research, the mystery remains unsolved. Sometimes, the biggest geological questions aren't buried deep underground. Sometimes, they're visible from space. The drowned forest. A few miles offshore lies one of Charleston's strangest secrets, an ancient forest hidden beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Divers have discovered tree stumps still rooted in place, preserved beneath the waves like a snapshot from another world. Thousands of years ago, this wasn't ocean, it was dry land, a place where forests grew and animals wandered. Then the sea arrived, slowly, relentlessly. The shoreline retreated inland, the forest drowned, and for centuries, nobody knew it was there. The unsettling part is what this discovery represents. This isn't merely a lost forest, it's proof that entire landscapes can disappear. And if the ocean swallowed one coastline before, what prevents it from reclaiming more land in the future? Remember that question. We'll come back to it later. Hurricane Hugo's terrifying lesson. In September 1989, Hurricane Hugo delivered a reminder Charleston will never forget. The storm slammed into the South Carolina coast with catastrophic force. Winds exceeded 135 miles per hour. Entire neighborhoods were shredded. Massive trees snapped like toothpicks. Boats were tossed inland. Power disappeared. Darkness spread. And for many residents, it felt as though nature had declared war on the city. The frightening part isn't that Hugo happened. The frightening part is that Charleston remains vulnerable to another storm of similar strength, or worse, because the Atlantic Ocean is still producing hurricanes, and the coastline hasn't moved out of their path.
The harbor funnel effect. Imagine pouring water into a funnel. The opening is wide, the exit is narrow. Everything becomes concentrated. Charleston Harbor can behave in a similar way during major storms. Storm surge enters, water levels rise, rivers struggle to drain, tides continue pushing inland. The result can be devastating flooding, far beyond what many people expect. Some of the city's most beautiful waterfront areas are also among its most vulnerable, and every year, rising seas make the problem slightly worse. Not dramatically, not all at once, just enough to matter. The Megalodon Graveyard. Charleston sits near one of the richest fossil shark regions in the world. Divers and collectors regularly discover giant fossil teeth from Megalodon. The sea floor offshore contains countless remnants of vanished oceans and extinct giants. But one question still fascinates researchers. Why are some areas so extraordinarily rich in these fossils? Why do certain locations seem packed with evidence of prehistoric life, while others remain relatively barren? The ocean isn't giving up all its answers, at least not yet. The ghost coastlines. Drive inland from Charleston, and something strange begins to appear. Subtle ridges, ancient terraces, unexpected changes in elevation. They look insignificant, but they tell an incredible story. These are former coastlines, places where the Atlantic Ocean once stood. At various times in Earth's history, the shoreline existed miles inland from where it sits today. The ocean advanced, the ocean retreated, again and again. The modern coastline is simply the latest chapter, not the final one. The saltwater invasion. One of Charleston's fastest growing problems isn't visible from the surface: saltwater intrusion. As sea levels rise, saltwater slowly pushes farther inland through underground aquifers and waterways. Freshwater resources become threatened, wetlands change, ecosystems shift. The transformation happens gradually, so gradually that many people don't notice it until the consequences become impossible to ignore. And by then, reversing the damage becomes far more difficult. The earthquake zone that shouldn't exist. Perhaps the strangest mystery of all is this: Charleston is nowhere near a major plate boundary. It isn't California, it isn't Japan, it isn't Chile, yet it produced one of the strongest earthquakes in eastern North American history. Why? Scientists continue searching for answers. Ancient faults, hidden weaknesses, deep crustal structures. No single explanation has fully solved the puzzle. The forces responsible remain largely invisible, waiting beneath layers of sediment, waiting beneath neighborhoods, waiting beneath streets filled with tourists who rarely think about what lies below. And that uncertainty may be the most terrifying part of all. The ancient ocean floor. Every sidewalk, every building, every road, every historic landmark, they all sit atop the remains of ancient oceans. Long before Charleston existed, warm, shallow seas covered much of the region. Marine creatures flourished. Sediments accumulated, shells settled onto the sea floor. Millions of years passed. Pressure transformed those materials into layers preserved beneath the modern landscape. In a very real sense, Charleston is built upon a cemetery of vanished oceans. The city owes its existence to environments completely different from the one we see today. The rocks remember, even if most people don't. The shark-tooth capital of America. Ask fossil hunters about Charleston, and many will immediately mention shark teeth. Thousands are found every year, some tiny, some enormous, some belonging to species long extinct. Storms, tides, and erosion continuously expose new specimens. It's almost as if the ocean refuses to stop returning pieces of its ancient past. Yet every tooth represents something larger, a glimpse into a prehistoric world where giant predators ruled warm coastal seas. A world that feels unimaginably distant, yet remains surprisingly close beneath Charleston's waters. And if the fossils are this abundant, what else might still be hidden beneath the coastline, waiting to be discovered? The vanishing beaches. Most people see a beach and assume it will always be there, maybe a little wider one year, maybe a little narrower the next, but fundamentally the same. Charleston's coastline tells a different story. Its beaches are constantly fighting a battle against waves, tides, storms, and rising seas. Every day, countless grains of sand are carried away. Most return, some don't. The losses accumulate. A single hurricane can erase years of natural rebuilding in just a few hours. Entire sections of beach can disappear almost overnight. The unsettling reality is that many of the coastlines people enjoy today are temporary. Nature is borrowing them, not giving them away permanently, and eventually, nature always asks for them back. The tidal flooding crisis. There was a time when flooding in Charleston was associated primarily with hurricanes. That time is gone. Today, ordinary high tides can flood streets. No hurricane required. No major storm necessary, just water. Residents sometimes refer to these events as nuisance flooding. The phrase sounds harmless. It isn't. Because nuisance flooding reveals something important. The system is already under stress. When streets flood during normal tidal cycles, it means there is less room for future changes. Less room for stronger storms, less room for rising seas, less room for mistakes. And year after year, the number of flooding events continues to grow. The question many experts ask is no longer whether flooding will increase, it's how quickly. The endless battle against erosion. Erosion sounds boring, until you realize it never stops, not for a single second. Wind erodes, rain erodes, rivers erode, waves erode. Storms accelerate everything. The process is slow enough that humans often ignore it, but geological time tells a different story. Entire landscapes have vanished because of erosion. Coastlines have moved, cliffs have collapsed, river channels have shifted. Charleston's beautiful scenery exists because erosion built it, and one day, erosion will help destroy parts of it. The same force that creates beauty also removes it. The storms growing more expensive. Hurricanes have always threatened Charleston. That isn't new. What's changing is the scale of potential damage. As development expands, the financial stakes continue growing. A storm that might have caused moderate damage decades ago can now create billions of dollars in losses. The geology hasn't changed. The exposure has. Nature doesn't care how much something costs. Water doesn't care whether a building is historic. A storm surge doesn't care how expensive a neighborhood is. And that's what makes coastal disasters so devastating. The Barrier Island Migration Machine. Earlier, we talked about moving islands. Now we need to understand just how extraordinary that movement can be. Barrier islands are not fixed structures. They behave more like gigantic rivers of sand. They shift landward. They shift sideways. Storms open new inlets. Other inlets close. Entire sections migrate across the landscape. This process has occurred for thousands of years, long before Charleston existed, long before maps existed. The islands protecting the city today are part of a constantly evolving system, a system that refuses to remain still. And if the barriers move far enough inland over time, Charleston's relationship with the ocean could change dramatically, very dramatically. The future sea level threat. Throughout this countdown, one theme keeps appearing: water, the ocean, flooding, storm surge, tides. There is a reason for that. Few geological concerns loom larger over Charleston's future than sea level rise. Even relatively small increases can have major consequences in a low-lying coastal city. The frightening part is that these changes don't arrive dramatically. There is no single day when someone wakes up and notices everything is different. Instead, the transformation unfolds slowly, year after year, decade after decade, until one generation suddenly realizes the landscape no longer behaves the way it once did, and by then, many of the changes are already underway. The city that looks calm until you read the rocks. The frightening truth about Charleston is that every danger we've discussed is still active. The faults remain hidden. The islands are still moving. The marshes are still sinking. The ocean is still rising. And the forces that shattered Charleston in 1886 never disappeared. They simply became quiet. That is what makes Charleston so fascinating and so unsettling, because the city doesn't look dangerous. It looks beautiful, but beneath its streets lies a landscape that has spent millions of years changing, flooding, sinking, eroding, and rebuilding itself, and it hasn't stopped. The question isn't whether Charleston will change again. The question is, how much change is already happening beneath people's feet without them noticing? And perhaps the most unsettling possibility of all, what if Charleston's biggest geological secret hasn't been discovered yet? Leave your theory in the comments below. And if this video changed the way you see Charleston, make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journey into the hidden mysteries of our planet. See you in the next anomaly.